I am Sami Magjesi from Malawi, representing intersex activists in Africa. The feedback we have for today about wellness is that as intersex people in Africa, we need to start by organizing ourselves. With that, we can have a way forward of where we can actually come into spaces like this and actually ask for spaces. That way we'll be ready and we'll know exactly what we're looking for, and the people, the masses, would actually understand what intersex activists and intersex persons in Africa are looking at and what we are working on. And we're glad to have Neville, the director of Other Foundation, to be funding us for the next Intersex Forum. Thank you.
I'm Jade from Forum for the Empowerment of Women, a Black lesbian feminist organization. I'm from a group where we spoke about lesbians. So we spoke about the problems that lesbians face, and we have identified issues of support, collective network, for example, the LBQ, and then the challenges that lesbians face are intimate partner violence, gender identity versus expression, hate crimes, the brutality, structural inclusion, undocumented femicide, reproductive health rights. So what we are looking to do is to have reproductive justice, wellness and self-care, dismantling family setup, lack of support. We also spoke about LBQ persons with disabilities, albinism as well. We need to have spaces that include people with disabilities and albinism. We also spoke about trans femme lesbians. We also spoke about structural exclusion. So what we need to do is understand the self and what our contribution to the political ideation, right, of what we want to do. And there is a need for collective support and a space to hold each other.
My name is Zamogo Zulu, and I'm representing the bisexual group within the movement. So what we were looking at is what we are facing as activists within the movement, and more generally we are facing mental health issues, and we are also facing burnout. So more specifically within the bisexual movement, we picked up that we are facing a lot of erasure and stigma according to what people perceive bisexuality is. So what we thought going forward is what we're going to do going forward is that we are going to start knowing our limits, which areas we have the bandwidth to entertain, to hold space for, and what we cannot. So we need to know ourselves. And second of all, we need to be proactive about health instead of waiting for the issue to arise to start building healthy coping mechanisms. And then we must start owning our identities and claiming the space we are in within the LGBTQ+ community, because the B is there. So we need to make sure that we are recognized. And the last and most final thing, going forward, we have developed a network within this space and across South Africa and the sub-Saharan regions for bisexuals to come together and speak on issues that we are facing so that we can build this movement going forward as bisexual people, for bisexual people, going forward within the LGBTQ+ community.
My name is Savuka Machila, and I'm representing the Gender Nonconformity group. Part of gender nonconformity, I think, does not really fit into either one of the boxes that are presented, and gives it a special space to trouble and shift the narrative of what it means to be identity. And a lot of the discussion spoke to the spirituality of humanity that supersedes gender and sexuality, that we can perhaps propose in the engagements of our politics within the various groups. We spoke about terminologies as well, how we often need to trouble how terminologies either medicalize or capitalize our bodies. And so finding ways in which we can change the discourse, introduce the narratives of African identities or pronouns and terminologies that seek to affirm who we are, but also not necessarily linking our identity to medical discourse ultimately in order to find access to safer spaces is probably a motion that was set forward within the group. Thirdly, I think the possibility of engaging our beings to kind of transcend the various spaces of identity seek to also find ways in which we can collide in our respective forms of needs as human beings, to find a kind of cohesive spaces that can inform the ways in which we can find ourselves braver and find ourselves with more access, whether that be support groups or mental health spaces that really do touch at the heart of who we are as human beings and how we can engage our realities moving forward.
My name is Sam Jean Lovu, and I'm standing in here reporting on the conversations in the transgender group. So basically, our conversation spoke to many aspects in terms of how we are organizing, but also the need for us to strengthen our cross-contextual organizing across the different countries in order to have better support mechanisms whenever there are other issues that occur in countries that go beyond just us occupying space as LGBTI persons or as transgender persons. So for instance, looking at the situation in eSwatini, what happened in Zimbabwe with the Zim Lives Matter, or any other in-country contextual elements, people having support during those periods beyond just them as transgender leaders in the movement. We also spoke a lot about the issue of accountability and how within the transgender space there are a lot of nascent organizations, the issue of capacity, how there's a lot of capacity strengthening that needs to happen to ensure that transgender-led organizations and the movement itself is able to access funding that is directly meant to support the movements, because what we are finding is a trend where there are other institutions that in the name of transgender work are then accessing these pots of funding simply because of issues around capacity, but also because generally we're living in a time and space where institutions are trying to access whatever they can. So the issue of donor institutions being able to look deeper when it comes to the issue of accountability and whether that funding directly is going to support transgender movements, persons, or how the budgets are allocated would be an important aspect. We also spoke largely to the issue of how elders, we have a lot of transgender elders in the movement who are then leaving the space, whereas we would need to draw from them as a resource in terms of capacity building elements and being able to ensure that the growth of the movement is sustainable in a way where we can draw from the resources of the different institutions present, but also individuals, and not lose that out in terms of how we consolidate our movement.
I'm Terence. We work with a group of the gay people, so we welcomed also other people out of the gay community. So we discussed about the practical ways what practical ways can we pay more attention to our well-being. So the first thing I want to say is that we welcome Mama. So Mama shared her experience, the experience she had with her son, who was gay and who unfortunately passed away. So she gave us an insight of how the family can support gay people and help them, grow and feel loved. Because society today, with social and economical pressures, quite repress the gay community. You need to feel bad to be who you are. So, and someone during the discussion said, by the time I understood who I was, I had no appropriate vocabulary to express myself about who I was. So, in the group, we had so many people who had a really big link to religion, and many of them feel suppressed by that, but they still believe in God. And for them, God is not the God of the book, it's a God of love, who loves everybody. Because if God didn't have, He want you to be here, you wouldn't be here. So you need to feel loved and valued for who you are. And they also shared their vision about safe spaces. We need to have safe space. And to do that, you may need the help of media. And today, not all media outlets are against you. Some will help you. So it's our duty to go towards them and try voice out. And sometimes even actions are louder than the voice. So we spoke a lot about that and how we could make ourselves feel more comfortable. So for some it's the family, for others our friends, and for some people it's the media, because not everyone has access to those kind of people who could, shelter them and support them.